I'm from Telesur. I'm the first correspondent of Telesur in China, and we are getting here to understand, to bring closer the culture, the politics, the economic of China for the Latin America public, as China is the second most important economy in the world now, and all the people in the West are getting more interesting of China, how the political system works, how the Communist Party of China and the participative democracy of China work. And so that's why we are here. We are here to deconstruct many stereotypes that the biggest Western media construct of China, like the lack of free press, of the lack of liberty of the Chinese people. And by the experience that I had here in the 6 months that I lived here, I can see completely the opposite. I never had any difficulty to make my reports, to show the society of China, to interview people in the street. You have to follow the laws, as every countries have the laws, and treat the people with respect. And so that's one of the objectives that we're trying to do. We are interested to understand more, for example, in these 2 sessions, to understand more about how the political system of China works. With the 56 delegates, the 56 ethnic groups that are reunited today in these 2 sessions, and the thousands of delegates that come from all provinces of China, we can see how this democracy, participative democracy, led by the Communist Party of China, is very functional. And how it's possible that in the Western world we are suffering from an economic crisis for the neoliberal system, and they are struggling so much to grow 1-2% of the GDP, and in China you have a sustainable growth of 4-5%. How you manage to eradicate the poverty? So it's clear that the NATO are feeling menacing by China, are feeling menacing by this different economic system. They try to impose the neoliberalism to the global South, and the global South now is seeing China another way to get the social problems solved, to get grow, and at the same time to eradicate, for example, the poverty that we so much lived as a structural problem, mostly because of the colonialism process, and now the neoliberalism that imposed even by the use of force, like United States made against Venezuela now, with the invasion of the country and the kidnapping of the president, and what they are doing in Cuba and in Venezuela, the blockade, economic blockade, to try to make a regime change, to try to get their natural resource. Trump just said openly that he wants the petroleum of Venezuela, the oil of Venezuela. And China is completely different, their way to make politics with the global South, with the country of the world, with Latin America. We lived in Latin America 400 years, 300 years of colonization process, and they still think Latin America as a colony of them. That's why United States act like this. China use the multilateralism as their geopolitical strategy. They respect the international law, and they respect the sovereignty of the countries, and they don't use economic to try to impose politic systems in other countries. So we are living this new colonialism of United States for a long time. My parents, for example, were arrested in a dictatorship in Brazil that was a coup of state made by United States from 64 to 84. My dad was a journalist, for example. And from 64 to 84, Brazil lived in a dictatorship. And why this is happening? In 62, we elected a progressist government that want another economic model, that want to make reforms in the country, as China made, for example, the agrarian reform. And because the United States didn't want that another socialist country rise in Latin America, they make a lot of coup of state in the Cold War in all the region. China is the most important partner of Brazil, of Venezuela, of Argentina, of mostly of the countries of Latin America. So United States, by these threats, they are trying to get again the control of Latin America because they treat Latin America as their colony. But this happens a long time, for 100 years. That's why we expect with China that we can finally be free of this neo-colonialism from the Western countries. China doesn't have military bases in the world. China doesn't use the imposition of force to try to put an economical system in the countries of the global south. China used the mutual gains. We getting partnership with China. We have a lot of benefit, economic benefit, and we have transfer of technology too.